The mini dragons, 4 small Asian lands without natural wealth, have the hottest economies on Earth. Like little Japans, they're pouring out computers, cars, TV sets, toys, and clothing. Their impact is visible in our homes, in our jobs, everywhere we look. Are they a threat to America? Or is their growing prosperity an opportunity for us and a lesson of what determined people can accomplish?
My question is it really a crime to work hard?
Tonight, meet the first mini dragon, South Korea, the world's newest and most ambitious industrial powerhouse. Like the people in the other mini dragon countries, Koreans are in a hurry to change their lives. South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Centuries of tradition and culture. Devastated in war. Now, the new economic powers of Asia, South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. These are the mini dragons.
The dragon, you know, is the symbol of China. Because the 4 countries you are about to see have been so greatly influenced by Chinese values, we have nicknamed them the mini dragons. These values, taught by Confucius, honor family, education, discipline, hard work, and putting the benefit of the country before yourself. In this series, we'll show you why these countries are so important. They may be tiny in size, but they are giants of export. And America's future will be increasingly bound up with their success. Let's start with South Korea.
In Korea, there's a word, Han, to explain the country and its people. Han means both bitterness and a resentful acceptance of fate. Born from centuries of oppression and inequality, its voice lies at the heart of Korea's music. They're here to sing songs of anger and frustration with their economic miracle. An economic miracle that has taken South Korea in a single generation from a starving third world country to a modern industrial state, manufacturing and exporting goods for the rest of the world. But South Korea's success was no miracle. It was bought with the sacrifices of low-paid workers. It was bought at the cost of government dictatorships and martial law, and at the cost of giant industrial conglomerates that dominate Korea's land and wealth. Now, people are no longer willing to pay the price. South Korea is at a crossroads. To succeed in the future, it must find a way to both satisfy the demands of its people and sustain economic growth. The two may not be compatible. In ancient days, Korea was called the land of the morning calm. It's an unlikely name for a country of such hardship, where nothing's ever come easy. Kim Byung-nok's family has farmed here for 10 generations, but farmers aren't a part of the new economic miracle. Kim now supplements his income by fishing. In a country with few natural resources, the people themselves are the most valuable resource. They endure. Kim wants a better future for his eldest son. Kim Hak-young is 18 years old and dreams of going to university in Seoul. For over a year now, he has studied up to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for the entrance test. A test more than 75% will fail.
My parents expect the most of me because I am the first son. Their dream is for me to become a judge or a lawyer. Now it's my dream, and I won't disappoint them.
When Kim's father was in school, higher education was only for a privileged minority. Now it's open to anyone who can pass the tough college entrance exams, even the son of a poor fisherman from Yulpo village. Kim lives with his father and mother, grandmother, and younger brother and sister in a house they've owned for generations. The family is the foundation of Korean life. Each new generation has a responsibility to support the last. Kim's parents have dedicated their whole lives to seeing their son go to college. When Kim graduates, he'll take care of them.
I made up my plan when I was in high school, a very detailed plan, even down to the date. If my plan works out, 10 years from now, I'll be a judge or a prosecutor in Seoul.
건강하고 몸 건강하고 조심하고 한다고 내 몸 조심하고 그것이 나는 진로부터가 어디 밤에 어디 가지 말고.
Kim's grandmother is almost 90 years old. During her lifetime, she and her family have experienced the end of Korea's ruling dynasty. Almost 40 years of Japanese occupation, a bitter civil war, and now the new economic miracle. It's less than 200 miles from Yulpo village to Seoul, but it's a journey from South Korea's past into its future. Seoul is now the fourth largest city in the world. 3/4 of South Korea's people live in its cities, and more arrive every day. This human tide has been the raw fuel of South Korea's economic miracle. A resource managed and controlled by a small elite of all-powerful industrialists. The companies they own, Lucky Gold Star, Samsung, Hyundai, have built the new economic order and their own fortunes in the process. These conglomerates are called chaebo. In Korean, it means a group with a lot of money. Sanyong is South Korea's 6th largest chaebo, a family business, and a $9 billion conglomerate. As eldest son, Kim Suk-won succeeded his father 15 years ago. He and 29 others like him control most of the South Korean economy.
Sanyong means a twin dragon. A dragon in Orient, we considered it kind of a holy animal. So I just did not satisfy with one. So we settled the name with a twin dragon or double dragons.
It's Sanyong, built by its workers into a business group of international stature.
The government created the chaebol, nurtured and fed them with low-interest loans and a monopoly on industry and exports. Their task, to industrialize South Korea, fast. They succeeded only too well. Now the government struggles to control the creatures it created. Sanyong and the other chaebol are South Korea's greatest landlords. 75% of private land is owned by only 6% of the population. In South Korea, the chaebol are lords of most of what they survey. Kim Suk-won is on his way to meet Sanyong's new graduate recruits. Sanyong receives 5,000 applications a year. This year, 645 were chosen. Now they're part of the Sanyong family. For the rest of their working lives, Sanyong will expect their total loyalty and allegiance, and will get it.
I have a responsibility to survive, never to scratch off the name of Sanyong from the history book. But it's not just my family. So 25,000, our Sanyong family, their families.
저한테 주어진 책임이라는 것은 이 기업을 유지를 해나가고 더 키워서
My goal is to keep the company prospering and hand it on to the next generation.
옛날 우리가 살아왔던 식으로 한국
Today, we are living in a new Korea. We're not isolated anymore. We've got to look to world markets.
세계 속의 한국입니다.
If an enterprise can't make a profit, it has no reason to exist.
기업이라는 것은 존재할 가치가 없습니다.
The enterprise's ultimate goal is to make profit.
Sanyong is one of the few chaebol with a good reputation and good labor relations, a rare exception in a country where strikes and riots regularly make world headlines. Workers are demanding higher wages and better working conditions. But it's not only workers protesting, it's all segments of society. Their main targets, government and the chaebol. South Korea has the greatest gap between rich and poor of any industrializing nation, and the gap isn't closing. The government is increasingly being blamed for this. No Tae-woo was elected president of South Korea in 1987 after 16 years of harsh military dictatorship. Growing social unrest forced an election, but infighting among opposition candidates split the vote and allowed the government's candidate, No Tae-woo, to take power. Because of his past ties to the military dictatorship, many don't trust him. Before democratization, labor unions were illegal. Labor organizers like Kwan In Suk were jailed, and many were tortured. Now labor unions are legal, but tightly controlled. Kwan In Suk is free, but closely watched by government agents. A year ago, she started a labor center to teach workers how to fight, how to organize.
When I first plunged into the labor movement, our method of protest was awkward. We're just shouting slogans without really knowing what the workers were saying. Now we're finally at the stage where we can give the workers some practical help.
At the Human Rights for Laborers Center, Kwan In Suk is coaching these workers, preparing them for an upcoming round of labor negotiations.
First, you have to have good strategies. How are we going to advance our demands? How are we going to defeat the other side?
Labor talks are held every spring, and every spring workers riot in the streets.
동결시켜달라는 겁니까 지금? 그렇게 따지시면? 동결시키라는 게 아니라 자기가 현재 생활하는 입장의 전체적인 것도 고려하고 그리고 노동자의 생활 조건을 고려를 해야지. 그게 150원이면 충분히 빌려다 볼 수 있어요. 그러면은 생산성이 향상이 안
The government is trying to set limits on salary increases.
국가적으로 뭐 노태우 형님께서 막 그러는데 내가 어떻게 뭐 백도 있고 백도 없는데 어떻게 하겠는가.
올해가 어려우니까 올해만큼은 좀 참아주면 나중에 이제 발전해가지고.
사무장님부터 이렇게 돌아가면서.
Kwan In Suk and her husband have devoted their lives to the workers' cause, and they're uncompromising in their mission.
Management only thought of the workers as the goose that lay the golden eggs. Of course, for the owners who collect the golden eggs, it must have been very nice. But for the goose that has to lay 3 or 4 eggs each day, it's been terrible suffering.
당신들이 어떤 식으로 그 정권을 동원해서
I tell you that no matter how much they try to oppress the workers by enlisting the help of the government, the workers' movement will continue.
강경하게 얘기할 수는 있겠죠. 근데
We're going to force this country to change.
그러진 않을 것 같습니다.
최후의 승리는 우리 것. 전국의 노동자 뭉쳤다. 한 발 두 발 전진이다. 노동자 생활의 그날 위해 이제는 하나다 전노협. 수고하셨습니다.
When I first came to Seoul, I was so lonely, I cried a lot. They called me crybaby. Everybody here cries a lot in the beginning, but we have to work for a happier life.
Pak Mi-ok was 17 when she left her home village. Her parents could no longer support her 7 brothers and sisters, so she made her way to Seoul and found a factory job like so many others before her. The pressure for better working conditions has made the lives of girls like these a little easier. They're still cramped into government-subsidized dormitories, but the factories in which they work now pay them $10 a day. It used to be $2.50. The impact of higher wages is threatening the survival of small factories, the workhorses of South Korea's economic miracle. No Young Suk worked his way up in the garment industry, starting as a sewer and a cutter. 10 years ago, he bought this factory with help from his family. No's company motto begins, "People with dreams gather together."
I don't have time for a personal life, but I don't feel any stress. God gave me this job and I work with my employees. The first time I handed out paychecks, I was overwhelmed with emotion. My role changed from receiver to giver of paychecks. In honor of the event, I went to the best public bathhouse to clean myself, and I had my hair cut and my face shaved. Since then, for the past 10 years, I've never once missed this ritual.
The factory is home to its workers 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. No Young Suk's wife runs the cafeteria. Here the workers eat breakfast, lunch, and at 7:30, dinner, the end of their working day. Factories like this were prosperous during the growing years when made in Korea meant cheap and low quality. But Korean goods aren't so cheap anymore. They're competing with made in Indonesia, made in Thailand, and made in China. The first stage of South Korea's industrializing is over. The second stage, high-tech quality products, doesn't include small factory owners like No Young Suk, but he's determined to survive.
내일 10시까지 셰프를 만들어 상품 받아야 되는데. 네.
와, 나 어머니랑 같이 안 했어. 다 걸어놔.
It's Sunday at Gyeongbok Palace. Once the home of Korea's kings, now a monument to Korea's ancient past. A reminder of the traditions of 5,000 years. Oh Jung-nam is a section chief in South Korea's Economic Planning Board. He helped put Korea on the path to industrial wealth. He still believes in the traditions his grandfather taught him. Now he's teaching them to his children.
When we come here, it's important that we think about our ancestors' Confucianism. Confucianist belief means putting the benefit of the country above yourself. We lost a lot of this when we changed our focus to material wealth. That's the Chinese character Zheng. It means government. So the name of this building means govern diligently. According to traditional values, government officials are the people's servant. They have to think about what the people want first.
It's a problem for Oh Jung-nam. These traditions he honors are frequently in conflict with the realities of present-day Korea, a Korea still bearing the scars of a bitter civil war. On June 25, 1950, the communist forces from the north burst across the border to invade South Korea. 3 years of bitter fighting followed. 2.5 million Koreans were killed, and the country was devastated.
My father died in the Korean War, and I was brought up by my mother. She was only in her 20s at the time, but she sacrificed her whole life to raise me, her only son. Our only hope then was to have 3 meals a day.
United Nations forces from 16 countries, including America, fought for the South. Communist China fought for the North. It was a stalemate. A country first divided in the aftermath of World War II was now locked into opposing Cold War camps.
휴전이라는 게 뭔지 알아?
Do you know what ceasefire means? It's when two sides in a war stop fighting and rest for a while. So even now, we are still in a state of war.
The legacy of the Korean War is the frustration and bitterness of a nation torn in two, the Han of a divided country, divided into North and South, rich and poor, labor and management. It's Oh Jung-nam's job to maintain South Korea's miraculous economic growth, despite the divisions.
우리 사회가 있는 위치는
Right now, we are better off than the other developing countries who still haven't solved their basic eating and shelter problems. But I still feel that Korea has another wall to climb before it's an advanced country. And to climb that wall, we have to sacrifice and unite as a country.
강의한 거 있잖아, 왜? 그거를 지금 현정택 과장이 그 아메리칸 챔버 오브 커머스에 가서 지금 강의를.
The realities Oh Jung-nam faces. In the past year, productivity has dropped by 30%, exports by 20%. Labor strikes have caused 50 factories to shut down, and the chaebol are looking in other countries for cheaper labor. South Korea's mighty export engine is slowing down. It's Oh Jung-nam's job to keep it running.
졸업할 때까지만요. 압박해 주시면 남은 제가요.
Kim Hak-young has been accepted into law school at Korea University in Seoul, one of the most prestigious in the country. He is the first one from his village ever to be accepted there.
Everyone in the village was so proud of me. I visited every house and thanked them for their support.
아버지가요.
My father tries very hard not to show emotions, to be stern, sometimes not very successfully. When he heard that I had been accepted into Korea University, he shouted, "My son, you did well."
It's the opening ceremony at Korea University for the class of 1994.
여러분의 귀중한 인생의 한때를 보내는 대학 생활을 시작하게
Welcome, new students. From this moment, you start your precious college life. You are the leaders of the 21st century. You are starting here at Korea University to leap into the new world.
Now it's time for Kim Hak-young to learn the traditions of university life and the rituals of protest. Students have always been Korea's conscience. Students are the loudest voice for democracy in South Korea.
Today I really feel like a college student. I belong here. I'm a part of this university. Hello everybody. I'm from Gumho High School, 15th graduating class. Now at Korea University Law School. My name is Kim Hak-yong.
For Kim and his classmates, the hardest part of university life is getting here. Graduating is much easier. But a college degree may no longer assure their future. South Korea's drive for education is running ahead of its ability to provide jobs for graduates. Today's generation won't accept the factory jobs. They're training to be managers and company executives. 50,000 of them won't be able to find a job this year. South Korea grew rich on manufacturing, employing a blue-collar, less educated workforce. But that workforce is quickly drying up. Worker expectations have been rising steadily with the growing economy. Workers no longer want jobs on the assembly lines, so factory owners are forced to pay higher and higher wages. But this is pricing them out of the international market. The garment industry has been hit the hardest. Once textiles accounted for over half of Korea's export earnings. Now it's down to about 20%. Trading companies like these provide the only gateway to the overseas buyer for small factory owners. Most of these companies are owned by the chaebol.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 캐티 컴판 받으러 왔습니다.
그러니까 볼에 들어온 겁니까? 아니면 괜찮으신가요?
들어온 건
인사이드 포켓이 보통 16cm 되거든? 18cm 아닙니까?
네.
이 끝을 조금 죽이고 있어요.
네.
잘라고.
No Young-suk's factory survives from order to order. Its future depends on the decisions of this man.
데리바리를 못 맞춰. 밑단이 많이 빠진다고. 파이프. 이거 펴요. 이런 대회는 항상 뭐 큰 문제가 없을 것 같고. 어째 이번에 뭐 봉급 날인데 봉급 맞춰지니까. 예.
그렇고 또 요거는 막 요대로 컴펌해갖고 작업 들어가는 걸 해줄게.
지금 이 부분이 굉장히 안 좋습니다. 이 막기로 작업하면서 이 스위치가 이제 끝쪽으로 물려야 되는데 디비지고 여기 이어가서 폰 작업할 때는 분명히 유의점이 가야 까다로운 말이 안 돼. 시장돌이 그래서 문제가 많습니다.
The quality remains poor, while labor costs are rising. Trading companies can fill their orders cheaper in other countries. This one is planning to build a factory in Indonesia.
괜찮네요. 차사가 좀 낮게 해가지고 다행히 좀 운영하고 좀 봤습니다.
좋은 거 줘서 고맙습니다.
예, 예. 어쩌면 작업 좀 잘해주시면 고맙습니다. 예, 예. 감사합니다.
For now, No Young-suk gets his order. He'll meet his payroll. But what about next month? And the month after? Pak Mi-ok and 80 others depend on Mr. No. No Young Suk is doing everything he can to stay in business. He's started an association of small factory owners to share ideas. These men now manufacture $20 jackets. Future survival means quality designer jackets that retail for $100.
The quality keeps falling and falling. It will never go up.
We just have to take the chance. Maybe even borrow money to buy better machines.
The problem is, just as the girls become skilled, they get married and quit.
We should study the overseas market. We have to go and compare our quality to China, Singapore, and the Philippines.
I hear Indonesia is producing quality goods.
Maybe we better all move to Indonesia.
Markets like this are the small factory owners' outlet for home consumption, a market they will increasingly rely on as foreign buyers disappear.
윤기가 흐르는 여자 내 고요한 눈빛을 보면서
Made in Korea, for Korea. Namdaemun Market has been here for over a century, and it's still the place to get the best buys.
웃을 때 목젖이 보이는 여자 내가 돈이 없을 때도 마음 편하게 만날 수 있는 여자 멋내지 않아도 멋이 나는 여자 껌을 씹어도 소리가 안 나는 여자 뚱뚱해도 다리가 예뻐서
The Sanyong Corporation celebrates its 50th birthday. Kim Suk-won has good reason to celebrate. Last year, his company did $6.2 billion worth of business in 100 countries. Kim's planning to launch Sanyong's first car into the American market next year.
Some people have advised me it's really foolish to go into the auto industry at this stage. But I told them that what business is easy? You have to struggle, and you have to learn how to survive. And after you survive, you have to learn how to get stronger.
This is Sanyong's Dragon Valley, another creation of Kim Suk-won. Ski resorts are new to Korea. For people who can afford it, there are now ways to enjoy their leisure time.
For past 10 years, the general average level of the Korean living standard has risen dramatically. That you might call it a miracle.
이제 세계 어디 갖다 놔도 부럽지 않은 그런 스키장 만들 수 있고
바람간에 빨리 올라가야지 김영의 목적이 달성되는 거 아니야? 맞아. 저걸 다 부시고서 저도 이제 맘모스 건물에 들었으니
처음에 다들 걱정들도 하고 했지만 이제 와가지고 다 좀 성공했던 얘기들을 흐뭇하기도 한데 아직 할 일 많아.
Kim Suk-won learned to ski in Vermont. He went to business school in Massachusetts. The West taught South Korea's new generation of economic leaders. Now, Western businessmen have come looking for a return on that investment.
So here's Los Angeles. And here's Palm Springs.
That's for the house for individual.
That's right.
Owner. Not Mrs. Swank.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. It's very nice to see you.
So how's the business going?
Oh, it's going great. How about you?
I rather prefer playing golf.
Just explaining to June Kim about our project out in the Coachella Valley, a golf course.
Where?
Coachella Valley.
Coachella Valley.
You know, Palm Springs, in California, this is the prototype of a new hotel that we're going to develop. It's all-suite hotel. And they have very large rooms that are right on the fairway. You can actually walk out the patio and you can tee up a ball. Yeah. And the other thing is that...
It's kind of a golfer's ultimate dream.
That's exactly right. So this is part of a larger scheme of 1,000 acres that Swank and Company are involved in. I'd like to talk to you about the housing component because the housing is the real money maker. The price of the houses in this area, $150 to $11 million, so you can get something for everybody.
But in South Korea, houses are not for everybody. The chaebol have decided there's no profit in the low-income housing most people need, and the shortage grows worse every year. The dream of owning a home is increasingly out of reach for almost half of South Korean families.
우리는 각성된 이 땅의 주인이다.
Land is the most valuable asset in a country as small as Korea, and the chaebol hold the deed. The government is trying to force them to either build or sell. So far, the chaebol have blocked any major reforms. Housing, faster democratic reform, higher wages and better jobs. The demands are getting louder. Every day of the year, riot police take up their positions on the streets of Seoul. Riots and tear gas seem as common as traffic jams. No part of Korean life is untouched by the inequalities and the people's anger, the Han of a divided country. And no person is untouched. Kim Hak-young has come to watch a student play. It's about a union leader tortured and imprisoned under the national security law. The law gives the government ultimate power and control over its people.
강원도 장관일 때 광부놈들을 선동하여 폭동을 일으키라는 지장을 얻습니다. 이 개새끼야!
저는 그런 사건이 My roommate said he never heard of such things before. But I knew things like that were happening in our country.
막히지 못해! 야, 다른 때려 불러! 얼른! 빨리 오라고 해! 저런 시뻘건 놈들 집에서 저런 노래 부르게 할 수도 없지!
As a government official, Oh Jung-nam is haunted by this legacy of past injustices. He is touring the country as part of a government campaign to win the people's trust, to assure people that the government is serious about reform.
우리 국민 모두는 더 높은 선진권으로
I firmly believe that the Korean people want to make Korea a success. But if we are going to succeed, the rich and the leading government officials will have to sacrifice and lead the way.
South Korea is struggling with democracy, but in small towns and villages, it's the economic issues that are the main concern.
이게 한도 기준에 때문에 이거 안 된다 이거.
Farmers and businessmen are losing patience with government policies that only seem to benefit the rich.
How did we get where we are today? We tightened our belts and we worked hard. Farmers worked hard. Factory workers worked hard. We didn't even sleep. Finally, we were better off. But what's happening now? Those who used to work hard now only think about their own share of the pie. And while they're arguing, the dinner table is taken away. Think about this. Many of your sons and daughters graduated from high school and entered college this year. How difficult it is to enter a college. They finally graduate despite all the difficulties. But now what? They can't find a job. Our sons and daughters, they can't find a job. They wake up in the morning and put on a necktie, but they've got nowhere to go. We can't expect the economy to keep growing unless the people help. We have to do it together.
South Korea today faces a delicate balancing act. It must provide the jobs and salaries people now expect. It must keep the factories and small businesses in business. At the same time, it must ensure that chaebol invest in South Korea's future. To do this, the government has decided it must control wage increases. It has turned to the chaebol, its own invention, to ask for their support.
The government asked us to help out in slowing the wage increase and to help prevent work loss resulting from strikes.
The guidelines said to limit the raise to less than 7%, including raises for promotions. They asked us to try to negotiate with the labor unions so that the rest of the industries would follow the pattern. They even said that if we don't follow the guidelines, we would be punished.
Right now, many Koreans worry about the wealth that we have created in the last 3 decades. It's not been equally distributed. It is coming very slowly. We have to be a bit more patient. It may not be our generation, but definitely our next generation will get better.
Oh Jung-nam has many goals for his children and for his country. He feels equally responsible for their future happiness.
When
people are asked, they should be able to say that the quality of life today is better than yesterday. And they have faith tomorrow will be even better.
Kim Hak-young has a detailed plan for his future, and he'll work hard to achieve it. but his success will be determined by the choices his countrymen make. South Korea has reached the crossroads, that crucial step of industrialization, a step from labor-intensive to high-tech goods. It succeeded in the past because government had the power to enforce its policies, but that power is now being challenged, a challenge accelerated by the higher expectations of a newly created consumer society. They've come here in anger and frustration. Students and teachers, farmers and businessmen, workers and housewives. In Korea, there's a word, Han, to explain the country and its people.
As Americans, we can appreciate and applaud the Korean struggle for democracy. The quest for a better life has brought many to America. More than 1 million Koreans now live and work here. They are some of our newest immigrants and already some of our most successful. But this should come as no surprise to anyone who knows and understands Korea's history. For over 2,000 years, Korea has been the battleground for foreign invaders. China, Russia, and Japan have all laid claim to Korea at one time or another. If it weren't for their fierce determination to survive, there would be no Korea today. And that determination to succeed against all odds is a hallmark of the Korean character. One historic tragedy yet to be overcome is their divided country, a legacy of the Korean War in which America has played its own part. Over 50,000 Americans lost their lives in that war, a war that was never officially ended. Even today, 40,000 U.S. troops remain on guard in South Korea, the last outpost of the Cold War. While South Korea has made great strides economically, North Korea remains one of the most closed and inflexible communist regimes left in the world today. At a time when communism is in retreat around the globe, the scene of the Berlin Wall coming down was a graphic reminder of Korea's own divided state. And for every Korean at home or in America, the question remains, when is our turn? There are signs of hope that things may be changing. The prime ministers of North and South Korea have met 3 times in less than a year. These are the first top-level contacts ever. There have been no dramatic agreements, but just the fact that they are talking is remarkable. We're used to labels like this that say, made in Korea. Korea's industrialization has a lot of parallels with America. Back in the 1920s, the exploitation of cheap labor led to the organization of labor unions here. The same conditions in Korea are leading to the same demands. Clothing may still be South Korea's biggest export, but as you have seen, that's about to change. This is Korea's future, expensive and sophisticated products. This General Motors car sold in America came off the assembly line in South Korea. They also make IBM monitors, Caterpillar forklifts, and 1 in every 3 microwaves. An economic invasion? Hardly. One way or another, these are the results of cooperative ventures between American and Korean firms. This sort of cooperation helps the United States compete in a global economy. South Korea has experienced one of the most remarkable turnarounds in modern history. Truly an economic miracle. Next time, we'll look at another miracle on the tiny island of Taiwan.
Next, discover Taiwan rising in power and influence as it struggles to overcome long-standing domestic conflicts. The Pacific Rim's mini dragons continue here on Channel 2.
Funding by Financial Guarantee Insurance Company, helping provide financial strength, security, liquidity. FGIC AAA Bond Insurance, tomorrow's security.
To order a video copy of this series, call 1-800-345-2690. For 1-hour video cassettes, $99.95 plus $5 shipping and handling. Or mail orders to Mini Dragons, Box 2284, Burlington, Vermont. To order the Mini Dragons companion book, call 1-800-345-2690. Credit cards accepted. Or mail prepaid orders to Mini Dragons, Post Office Box 2284, Burlington, Vermont. Again, to order the Mini Dragons companion book, call 1-800-345-2690. Credit cards accepted. Or mail prepaid orders to Mini Dragons, Post Office Box 2284, Burlington, Vermont.
This is PBS.